Welcome back. Turn off the lights, put on your headphones, and prepare for a story you won't forget. Some roads are not dangerous because of what happens on them, but because of what waits there after midnight.
The last guest. There are nights I wish I could erase from my memory. Not because they were violent, not because I almost died, but because sometimes I still wake up convinced she's standing beside my bed, smiling. My name is Ethan Walker. In October of 2025, I worked the overnight shift as the only security officer at the Blackwood Inn, a small roadside hotel just outside Hannibal, Missouri. If you've ever driven through rural Missouri after midnight, you know the feeling. Miles of empty highway, cornfields stretching into darkness, gas stations that look abandoned even when they're open. The Blackwood wasn't a luxury hotel. It wasn't even a good one. Most of our guests were truck drivers, traveling salesmen, exhausted families trying to shave a few hours off a long road trip. It had only 3 floors, 46 rooms, 1 receptionist during the day, 1 security guard at night. Me. The building itself was old enough to groan every time the temperature changed. The pipes knocked inside the walls, the elevator squealed, room doors swelled during humid weather. None of that bothered me. Old buildings make old sounds. That's normal, or at least that's what I kept telling myself. My shift started every night at 10 p.m. First, I'd walk every hallway, check every emergency exit, inspect the boiler room, then spend most of the night watching cameras in the tiny security office behind the lobby. Easy money. Until that Thursday. Around 12:40 a.m., the front entrance opened. No headlights had pulled into the parking lot, no engine, no footsteps outside. Just the automatic doors slid open by themselves. A woman walked in. She looked to be around 30. Long black hair, pale skin, a dark red dress that seemed strangely elegant for a roadside motel. She wasn't carrying luggage, no purse, no phone, nothing. She simply walked to the reception desk. The night clerk had stepped outside for a cigarette, leaving me alone with the security monitors. I watched her through camera 1. She stood perfectly still, not looking around, not impatient, just waiting. There was something off. She never blinked, not once. After nearly a minute, I walked out of the office. "Can I help you, ma'am?" She slowly turned toward me. Her smile appeared before her eyes did. "You work nights?" Her voice was soft, almost soothing. "Yeah." She tilted her head. "You must get lonely." I laughed politely. "Sometimes. I could keep you company." Something about the way she said it made the hairs on my arms stand up. Not because it sounded flirtatious, because it sounded hungry. Before I could answer, our receptionist returned. The woman immediately faced him. "I'd like a room." He typed into the computer. "I'm sorry, ma'am. We're fully booked." She smiled. "No. You have room 214. The receptionist frowned. "That room isn't available." She smiled even wider. "It will be." Neither of us understood what she meant. She thanked us, turned around, and walked back outside. I followed her with my eyes through the glass doors. She stepped into the darkness beyond the parking lot lights. Then she was simply gone. No car, no road, no sound, nothing. About 20 minutes later, room 214 called the front desk. The guest was furious. "There are scratches coming from inside my bathroom wall." The receptionist rolled his eyes. "Probably mice." He asked me to check it. I grabbed my flashlight and headed upstairs. The man staying there was in his 60s. His face was pale. I'd been hearing it for 10 minutes. Scratch, scratch, scratch. The sound came from behind the bathroom mirror, exactly where the plumbing ran. I listened. It did sound like an animal, until it stopped. Then 3 slow knocks. Knock, knock. Not random. Deliberate. The guest whispered, "You heard that?" I nodded. Then the bathroom light went out, by itself. The room temperature dropped so suddenly that I could actually see my breath. I checked the breaker. Nothing. The light flickered back on. The scratches were gone. I apologized, assuming it had been faulty wiring. The guest wasn't convinced. Neither was I. As I stepped back into the hallway, I noticed room 214's door slowly closing by itself. No draft. No one inside touching it. Just slowly. Click. I remember staring at it for several seconds before walking away. I should have kept walking. Instead, I looked back. Standing at the far end of the hallway, under the flickering emergency light, was the woman in the red dress, watching me, smiling, exactly the same smile. She slowly raised one finger and pointed at room 214. Then, every light on the third floor went out. The third floor went completely black. Not dim, not flickering, just gone. The kind of darkness that swallows everything. Even the glow from the exit signs disappeared. I froze. Every instinct told me to get downstairs. Instead, I found myself staring at the spot where the woman had been standing. She was gone. No footsteps, no door opening, nothing. Only silence. The kind of silence that makes you hear your own heartbeat. Then a voice. Soft, barely above a whisper. Come inside. It came from room 214. I told myself it had to be the guest. Maybe he'd fallen. Maybe he needed help. I reached for my radio. Static. Nothing but a burst of white noise. Security to front desk. No response. Again. Only static.
Yeah.
Then another whisper. Closer this time. Ethan. My blood ran cold. I had never told that woman my name. I pulled my flashlight from my belt. It clicked on immediately. The narrow beam cut through the darkness. Dust floated lazily through the air. The hallway looked longer than before. Much longer. I knew this corridor. I'd walked it hundreds of times. 12 rooms, one ice machine, emergency exit. That was it. But now, the hallway seemed endless. Room numbers kept going. 216, 218, 219, 221. There was no room 226. Not in this hotel. I blinked. The numbers were normal again. 214 sat exactly where it always had. I convinced myself I was imagining things. Lack of sleep, stress, anything. I knocked. No answer. Again. Still nothing. I slid the master key into the lock. The door opened with a slow creak. The room was empty. The television was still on. A baseball game played silently across the screen. The bed was unmade. The guest's wallet lay on the nightstand. His shoes sat neatly beside the bed. His suitcase remained open. Everything he owned, still there, except him. Ethan? Someone spoke behind me. I spun around so fast I nearly dropped my flashlight. It was Daniel, the night receptionist. He looked confused. What are you doing? The guest. There isn't supposed to be anyone up here. What? He frowned. I just checked the reservation system. He held up the hotel tablet. Room 214 has been vacant all week. I stared at him. No, I just talked to the guy. Daniel shook his head. Ethan, you've been upstairs alone for almost 40 minutes. 40 minutes? It had felt like 5. I laughed, not because anything was funny, because nothing made sense. Check the cameras. We hurried downstairs. The security office suddenly felt smaller than usual. Warmer, safer. I rewound the footage. Camera 3. Third floor hallway. 12:58 a.m. There I was, walking toward room 214, exactly as I remembered. Then I knocked, opened the door, walked inside. The door closed. The timestamp continued. 103:11, 119, 131. The door never opened, never came out. Daniel looked at me, but I was standing beside him, watching myself still trapped inside room 214. Neither of us spoke. The video continued. Then at exactly 1:37, the door slowly opened. Someone stepped into the hallway. Not me. The woman in the red dress, she looked directly into the security camera, smiled, and raised one finger to her lips, as if asking us to keep a secret. She walked past the camera, toward the stairwell. The camera followed nothing after that. She simply vanished. 1 second she existed. The next, she didn't. Then finally, I walked out of room 214. My face looked wrong, expressionless. My shoulders slumped, like someone sleepwalking. I stood outside the room for nearly 30 seconds, that completely motionless, before finally walking back toward the elevator, exactly as if nothing had happened. Daniel paused the footage. Ethan, what happened in that room? I don't know, because I honestly didn't. There was nothing, no memory, just nothing. Almost 40 minutes of my life, gone. Neither of us noticed the elevator, not until we heard it. Ding! The doors opened by themselves. No one got out. The indicator above the door read 3. A few seconds later, the doors closed. The elevator began descending. Second floor, first floor, lobby, basement. Except there was no basement. Our hotel didn't have one. The display kept changing. B1, B2, B3. Daniel looked at me. Neither of us moved. The elevator kept going down, lower and lower, until the display showed something that should have been impossible. B22. Then everything stopped. The lights inside the security office flickered once, twice, and every security monitor went black, except one. Camera 22. We didn't have a camera 22. The screen slowly came into focus. It showed a hallway, old, stone walls, ancient wooden doors, each one marked with faded brass numbers. At the end of the corridor stood the woman, still wearing the same dark red dress, still smiling. Only this time, she wasn't alone. Dozens of people stood behind her, men, women, children, all perfectly still. Every one of them staring directly into the camera. Then, one by one, they all smiled, exactly the same way she did. The monitor emitted a loud burst of static and went black. Neither Daniel nor I spoke for a very long time, because deep down, we both realized the same thing. Whatever had checked into room 214 had never been looking for a place to sleep. It had been looking for someone to take home. I didn't sleep after that. Neither did Daniel Block. We stayed in the security office until sunrise, replaying the footage over and over. Every time we reached the clip from camera 22, the file corrupted, the screen froze, static swallowed the image. Then the recording skipped ahead as if those 37 seconds had never existed. Daniel finally broke the silence. I'm deleting it. I nodded. He selected the file, pressed delete. The computer thought for a second. Then a message appeared. Access denied, he frowned. Tried again. Same message. We weren't connected to any outside server. There was no administrator logged in. Nothing should have prevented us from erasing it. Then another message appeared. Neither of us touched the keyboard. You can't delete what still lives here. Daniel pushed his chair back so hard it slammed into the wall. What the hell? Before either of us could react, the monitor shut itself off. Morning arrived like nothing had happened. Guests checked out. Housekeeping laughed in the hallway. Coffee brewed in the lobby. Normal. Painfully normal. I almost convinced myself I'd imagined everything, until housekeeping refused to clean room 214. Maria had worked there for nearly 12 years. Nothing scared her. She once chased a raccoon out of the laundry room with a mop, but that morning, she wouldn't even touch the doorknob. The room smells wrong. What do you mean? She searched for the words. It's not mold. It's not smoke. It smells old. I unlocked the door. The room looked exactly as we'd left it, except for one thing, the mirror above the dresser. Someone had written on it, from the inside, as if a finger had traced the letters through fog. Thank you, nobody admitted writing it. Not housekeeping, not maintenance, not Daniel. The guest from the previous night officially didn't exist. His reservation had vanished from the system. His payment? Gone. Even the key card assigned to room 214 had disappeared from the database. But his suitcase was still sitting beside the bed. The manager ordered me to remove it. I zipped it shut. It felt unusually heavy, almost too heavy for an empty suitcase. Curious, I opened it. There were clothes, a shaving kit, a leather notebook, an old Polaroid camera, and underneath everything, a newspaper, dated October 18th, 1995, exactly 30 years earlier. The headline made my stomach tighten. Local man disappears inside Blackwood Inn. The article described a traveling salesman who had vanished overnight. His belongings were found inside room 214. No signs of forced entry, no body, no suspects. Police never solved the case. The photograph beside the article showed the missing man. Gray hair, wrinkled face, blue flannel shirt. I recognized him instantly. He was the guest I'd spoken to the night before. Exactly the same face, exactly the same clothes, exactly the same age. He hadn't aged a single day. I ran downstairs with the newspaper. Daniel was waiting in the lobby. "You need to see this." His face had turned white. He pointed toward the guest registration book, not the computer, the old paper ledger we kept as a backup. He slowly opened it. Every page listed names dating back months, until we reached the entry for last night. Room 214. The ink was still fresh. The guest's signature was there. Only, it wasn't one signature. There were dozens, layered over one another, written in different handwriting, different ink colors, different decades. Every person who had supposedly stayed in room 214 had signed on the exact same line. Some signatures were so faded they were almost invisible. Others looked brand new. One name caught my eye, Emily Harper. Below it, 1988. Daniel whispered, "My mother." What? My mother disappeared here in 1988. He stared at the page without blinking. I never told anyone that. His voice cracked. She was a maid. They said she quit, but she never came home. He touched her signature with trembling fingers. The moment his skin met the paper, every light in the lobby exploded. Glass showered across the floor. Guests screamed. Someone pulled the fire alarm. The entire hotel fell into darkness. Again. This time, the darkness wasn't empty. Footsteps echoed across the lobby. Slow, measured. High heels. Click, 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 click. Nobody was there, yet everyone heard them. A family huddled near the entrance. An elderly couple began praying. A truck driver backed himself into a corner, clutching a tire iron. The footsteps continued, getting closer, closer, then stopped, right in front of me. I couldn't see anyone, but I could smell something, a faint perfume, sweet, like roses left too long in a vase. Then I felt it, a hand, cold as winter, resting gently against my cheek. A woman's voice whispered directly into my ear. "You came back." I spun around. Nothing, only darkness. Then the emergency lights flickered on. The lobby was empty, not just of the shadow, of everyone. Every guest, every employee, even Daniel. Gone. The front door stood wide open. Outside, the parking lot wasn't there anymore. Beyond the entrance stretched a thick wall of gray fog. Silent, endless. And somewhere inside that fog, a woman laughed, softly, patiently. Like she already knew I wasn't leaving this place alive. The fog shouldn't have been there. The hotel's front doors opened directly onto the parking lot. Beyond that was Highway 61, a gas station, a row of maple trees, nothing else. But now, everything beyond the entrance had disappeared. No cars, no road, no stars. Just a sea of gray mist that swallowed the world whole. I took one cautious step outside. The cold hit me instantly. Not winter cold, not the kind that bites your skin. This cold settled deeper, into your lungs, into your bones, like breathing inside a freezer. I looked back. The hotel was still behind me. Its neon sign flickered weakly. Blackwood Inn, only. The letters began changing, slowly, one by one. The B went dark, then the L. The sign buzzed violently. When it stopped, it no longer read Blackwood Inn. It read, "Welcome home." I stumbled backward. The automatic door slammed shut behind me. The lock clicked. I pulled on the handle. Nothing. I banged my fist against the glass. No answer. Inside the lobby, the lights were on again. The furniture sat exactly where it belonged. The reception bell rested on the counter. Everything looked normal, except there were people inside now. At least 20 of them. Guests, employees, children. They stood completely still. None of them moved. None of them blinked. Every face was turned toward me. Watching, waiting. I pounded harder. Open the door. Not one of them reacted. Then, very slowly, every single person smiled. The exact same smile. Wide, empty, unnaturally perfect. The smile I'd already seen 3 times. The smile of the woman in red. Someone spoke behind me. "You shouldn't have stepped outside." I spun around. An elderly man stood a few feet away. He wore a faded maintenance uniform. His beard was white. His eyes looked exhausted. like a man who hadn't slept in years. Who are you? My name doesn't matter anymore. His voice was calm, but yours still does. He glanced toward the hotel. They've noticed you. What is this place? He sighed. You think you're standing outside the Blackwood Inn? He shook his head. You're not. I don't understand. Neither did I. He pointed toward the fog. Walk in any direction. You'll come back here. I laughed nervously. That's impossible. So is disappearing for 30 years without aging. He wasn't wrong. Before I could stop myself, I started walking into the mist. 20 steps, 30, 40, nothing. Only gray. The silence became unbearable. Then, a familiar sound. Automatic doors opening. I stopped. The Blackwood Inn stood directly in front of me. Exactly where I'd started. No matter which way I walked, I always came back. The old man wasn't surprised. It chooses who leaves and who stays. What chooses? Instead of answering, he rolled up his sleeve. My stomach tightened. Tattooed into his forearm were names. Hundreds of them, tiny, packed together, each followed by a year. 1973, 1974, 1975, 1976, 1977. Every line looked hand-carved, not tattooed, cut into the skin. What are those? The people it took. My eyes drifted lower. The last name had dried blood around it. Daniel Brooks, 2025. I looked up immediately. Daniel isn't dead. The old man met my eyes. He is where you are. What does that mean? It hasn't decided yet. A scream echoed from inside the hotel. Daniel. Without thinking, I ran toward the entrance. The old man grabbed my arm. If you go back, you'll see things that aren't meant for the living. I have to help him. His grip loosened. You still believe you can. Something about the way he said it chilled me more than the fog. The doors unlocked by themselves. This time, they opened inward. The lobby lights had changed. Gone was the warm yellow glow. Everything was illuminated by pale white light that buzzed softly overhead. The air smelled different. Old wood, dust, and something metallic, like dried blood. The lobby itself had aged. Wallpaper peeled from the walls. The carpet was stained. The reception desk had cracked down the middle. It looked abandoned for decades. Yet moments earlier it had been perfectly clean. I heard crying upstairs. A little girl, quiet, heartbreaking. Mom? Silence. Again, Mom. The voice drifted down the staircase. Every instinct told me not to follow it. I climbed anyway. The second floor was wrong. Every room door stood open. Inside each room, someone was standing beside the bed, motionless. Some wore old-fashioned clothing from the 1970s. Others looked modern. A businessman, a police officer, a young couple, a teenage boy with headphones around his neck. They all stared at the walls, not moving, not speaking, like statues waiting for permission to breathe. As I walked past room 208, one of them turned his head, just enough to look at me. His lips trembled. He whispered one sentence, barely audible. Don't let her know you can still remember your name. Before I could answer, every head in every room snapped toward me, at exactly the same moment. Dozens of eyes locked onto mine, and from somewhere above, the woman in the red dress laughed again, closer than ever. This time, she wasn't alone. Hundreds of footsteps began descending from the third floor, slowly, together, like an entire crowd, coming to welcome their newest guest. The footsteps didn't sound human. There were too many of them, too perfectly synchronized. Every step landed at exactly the same moment. Thump, thump, thump. The entire hotel seemed to vibrate with each one. The old wooden walls groaned. Dust drifted from the ceiling. I backed toward the staircase, unable to look away from the third floor landing. Something was coming. Not one person. An entire crowd. The people standing inside the guest rooms hadn't moved. They still faced me, still smiling. But now they were whispering. At first it sounded like random voices. Then I realized they were repeating the same sentence. Over and over and over. Don't look at her eyes. Don't answer when she speaks. Don't let her touch you. Their whispers grew louder until hundreds of voices merged into one. A desperate warning. Then Silence. Every mouth closed at once. The first figure appeared at the top of the stairs. It wasn't the woman. It was an elderly man in an old motel uniform. His name tag was rusted. Harold. His neck bent at an impossible angle. One arm hung almost detached from his shoulder. His cloudy eyes locked onto mine. Then another figure stepped beside him. A little girl holding a stuffed rabbit. Her white dress was stained with mud. Then another. A truck driver. A police officer. A bride wearing a torn wedding gown. A teenage boy covered in dried blood. They kept coming, one after another, dozens. None of them blinked. None of them made a sound. They simply walked downstairs, as if answering someone's call. And then she appeared. The woman in the red dress. She descended the staircase slowly, one hand gliding along the banister. Her smile hadn't changed, but her eyes weren't human anymore. They were completely black, not like dark-colored eyes. Black, as though there was nothing behind them. No pupils, no whites, only an endless void. She looked directly at me. Ethan. She smiled wider. You remembered your name. Her voice echoed through the hallway without becoming louder. Every ghost lowered their heads as she spoke, almost like they were afraid of her. I've been waiting. She took another step. So many years. I don't know you. You did. She tilted her head. You just don't remember yet. The words hit me harder than they should have, because somewhere deep inside, a memory stirred. Not a clear one, just a feeling, like waking from a dream you almost remember. I suddenly saw flashes, a highway, rain pounding the windshield, a red dress standing in the middle of the road, brakes screaming, then darkness. The vision vanished. I grabbed the railing to steady myself. What was that? She smiled. The first time we met. My heart nearly stopped. I'm 29, she nodded. Now? What do you mean now? You've been here before. No. You died once already. I stared at her. Every rational thought collapsed. She continued speaking gently. As far as you're concerned, this is your first life, but not your first visit. The hallway seemed to spin around me. No, you're lying. She looked genuinely disappointed. I hoped you'd remember on your own. Without warning, she raised her hand. The air around us rippled. Suddenly, the hotel disappeared. I was standing beside a highway. Rain hammered the pavement. A younger version of myself sat inside a wrecked pickup truck. The front of the truck had wrapped around a telephone pole. Smoke poured from the engine. Blood ran down the younger Ethan's forehead. He wasn't moving. Standing beside the truck was the woman, still wearing the same red dress, exactly the same face, exactly the same smile. She looked toward the dying version of me, then slowly turned and looked directly at me, not the younger Ethan, me, watching the memory. I gave you another chance. The vision shattered. The hotel returned. I stumbled backward, breathing hard. That's impossible. She stepped closer. So was surviving. I don't understand. You should have died that night. You belong to this place. But someone asked for mercy. She gently placed her hand over her own heart. So, I let you leave. The ghosts around her remained perfectly still, listening, waiting. You had one life, just one. And now, she looked almost sad. It's over. A loud crash echoed from downstairs. Ethan! Daniel. He was alive. His voice came from the lobby. I found a way out! For the first time, the woman's smile disappeared. Her head turned sharply toward the staircase. Every ghost in the hallway did the same, all at once. Like predators hearing wounded prey, she whispered only 2 words. Too late. Then every light in the hotel exploded simultaneously. The building shook violently, and the ghosts began to run. Not walk, run, straight toward us. Thousands of footsteps thundered through the hotel as Ethan turned and sprinted toward Daniel's voice, with the woman in the red dress following behind at a calm, unhurried pace, smiling once again, as if she already knew exactly how this chase would end. I ran. Not because I thought I could outrun them, because every instinct in my body screamed that if I stopped, even for 1 second, I'd never move again. The hallway shook beneath my feet. Hundreds of footsteps echoed behind me. They weren't chasing me individually. They moved like one creature, one heartbeat, one mind, one endless wave of dead people. Daniel's voice came again. "Ethan, this way." I rounded the corner toward the staircase. Daniel was standing beside the emergency exit, waving frantically. He was holding something in his hand, the old guest ledger. "Move." The moment I reached him, he slammed the metal exit bar. The heavy fire door burst open. We threw ourselves through it and tumbled down the concrete service stairs. The door slammed shut behind us. Instantly, everything became silent. No footsteps, no whispers, nothing. Daniel leaned against the wall, gasping for breath. "What the hell is happening?" I didn't answer because I couldn't. My mind was still replaying what the woman had said. "You died once already." No, it couldn't be true. It had to be another trick. The service stairwell wasn't supposed to connect to anything except the basement utility room. Except our hotel didn't have a basement. Yet the stairs kept going down. One flight, 2, 3. The numbers painted on the walls changed. B1, B2, B3. Daniel stopped. "You seeing this?" I nodded slowly. "We're underground." No, he looked around. We're somewhere else. The concrete walls had changed. They were no longer smooth. They had become rough stone. Moisture dripped from the ceiling. The air smelled of wet earth and rust. Somewhere below us, a bell rang. One slow chime, then another, as if announcing our arrival. We reached the bottom. An enormous iron door stood in front of us. It looked centuries older than the hotel. Carved into the metal were hundreds of names. Thousands, maybe. Some were almost impossible to read. Others looked freshly engraved. I ran my flashlight across the surface. My stomach tightened. Near the center, I found mine. Ethan Walker. Below it, no date, just my name. Daniel searched beside me. A moment later, he whispered, "No." I followed his light. His name was there too. Daniel Brooks. This one had a date, 2025, today's year. A scraping noise echoed behind us. Not footsteps, something heavier, like chains dragging across stone. We turned together. At the far end of the corridor, someone stood holding an old lantern. It was the elderly maintenance worker I'd met outside the hotel. Only now, he looked younger, much younger, maybe 50. His uniform was clean, no beard, no scars. He sighed. "I was hoping you wouldn't find this place." Daniel raised a broken pipe he'd picked up upstairs. "Stay back." The man ignored him. He looked only at me. "She showed you the accident," I nodded. "It wasn't everything." "What do you mean?" He slowly lifted the lantern. Its warm light pushed the darkness back. "You remember crashing your truck. You remember seeing her. But you don't remember who was sitting beside you." My heartbeat stopped. There had been someone else? No, there wasn't, Dusk. There was. He reached into his pocket, pulled out an old Polaroid. The edges had yellowed with age. He handed it to me. My hand shook as I looked down. It showed two men standing beside a pickup truck. One was unmistakably me, younger, smiling. The other, Daniel. Only he looked exactly the same age he did now. The photo was dated October 18th, 1995, 30 years ago. Daniel stared at it in disbelief. This has to be fake. It isn't." The maintenance worker's expression was filled with pity. "You've both been coming back here for a very long time." Neither of us spoke. He continued. "Every 30 years, the hotel forgets. So do you. You live another life. You grow older. You think you're someone new. But eventually, you return." Daniel backed away. No. You're lying." The old man shook his head. "I wish I were." Before anyone could say another word, the lantern went out. Darkness swallowed us. Then, a familiar perfume drifted through the corridor. Roses, sweet, rotting. A woman's voice echoed from everywhere at once. "You've told them too much." The maintenance worker closed his eyes. "I know. I'm sorry." Something moved behind him. Fast. Too fast to follow. There was a wet cracking sound. The old man gasped. His body lifted off the ground as though invisible hands had seized him. He looked directly at me. With the last of his strength, he whispered, "Don't let her make you remember." His sentence ended in a scream. The darkness tore him away. The lantern hit the floor. Its glass shattered. Silence returned. Daniel and I stood frozen. Then, the iron door in front of us slowly unlocked by itself. With a deep, echoing groan, it began to open. A freezing wind poured out from the darkness beyond. And somewhere inside, thousands of voices whispered our names. "Welcome back." The iron door opened just wide enough for us to squeeze through. Neither of us wanted to be the first, but standing still didn't feel like an option anymore. The whispers were getting louder, not frightening anymore, almost welcoming, like old friends calling us home. Daniel swallowed hard. "We go together." I nodded. We stepped inside. The door slammed shut behind us. The room beyond wasn't a room. It was impossible. An endless hallway stretched into darkness. Hundreds of hotel doors lined both sides. Every single one was marked 214. No matter how far my flashlight reached, there were only more doors, more room 214s. The carpet beneath our feet looked decades old. The wallpaper peeled from the walls. Water stains spread across the ceiling like veins. It smelled of mildew, old paper, and something faintly metallic. Blood. Every door had a peephole. As we walked, I noticed something. Someone was looking back. And I, watching from inside, not moving, just staring. Then another, and another. Soon, every peephole contained an eye. Hundreds of eyes silently following us. Daniel whispered, "Don't look." Too late. One eye blinked. Then all of them blinked together. The hallway exhaled. The sound was like an entire building taking one slow breath. A soft click echoed nearby. One of the doors opened by itself. Inside was an ordinary hotel room, except someone sat on the edge of the bed, facing away from us. A man, gray hoodie, blue jeans. His shoulders trembled slightly, as though he were crying. "Ethan." Daniel grabbed my arm. "Leave him." But the man spoke, without turning around. "I know you." My heartbeat quickened. "So do I." Something about his voice felt wrong, familiar. I stepped into the room. The air was noticeably colder. The man slowly stood, still facing away. "You shouldn't have come back. I've never been here." He laughed quietly, a tired laugh. "That's exactly what I said." Then he turned around. I felt my knees weaken. I was looking at myself, not an identical twin, not someone who resembled me. Me, older, maybe 60. His face was lined with exhaustion. His beard had turned gray. One eye was missing. Long scars crossed his neck. He smiled sadly. "I was wondering how long it would take." Daniel whispered, "What is this?" The older version of me ignored him. He looked only at me. "You still think you can escape?" "I will." He slowly shook his head. "I've escaped 7 times." The words barely registered. 7? You'll understand eventually. He walked toward the dusty window. Outside, nothing but endless fog. I've lived entire lifetimes. I've had children. I've grown old. I've died. And every time, he looked back at me. "I wake up here." "No, you're lying. I used to think that too." He reached into his pocket, pulled out a wedding ring, worn nearly smooth. My wife's name was Claire. His voice cracked. "We were married 43 years. I watched our grandchildren grow up. I died in my own bed." He looked at me with hollow eyes. And then, I opened my eyes. Inside room 214. Silence filled the room. Every word felt impossible. Yet somehow I believed him. He stepped closer. "There isn't one hotel. There never was. The Blackwood, the Parador, the Crescent Oaks." He smiled bitterly. "They're all the same place." The realization hit me. Different buildings, different cities, different decades. The same entity. Always waiting, always hungry. "Why us?" I finally asked. He looked toward the hallway. "Because once you survive her, she owns part of you. You spend the rest of your life pretending you're free. But eventually, you always come back." Daniel suddenly stiffened. His eyes focused on something behind me. "Ethan?" His voice trembled. "Don't turn around." I already knew who was there. I could smell the perfume again. Fresh roses, and something rotten underneath. A woman's hand rested gently on my shoulder, ice cold. "So," she whispered, "you found him." The older version of me closed his eyes. "I'm sorry." "For what?" He looked directly into mine. "For what you're about to remember." The woman's fingers tightened. The walls began to shake. Every room 214 door in the hallway burst open simultaneously. Thousands of voices screamed at once. Not in fear, in recognition. Ethan has come home. The hallway stretched farther than before, doors multiplying into infinity as every version of Ethan, young, old, wounded, smiling, broken, stepped silently out of room 214 and turned to face him. Each of them spoke in perfect unison. Only one of us gets to lead. Every version of me stared in silence, young, old, broken, scarred. Some wore business suits. Others were dressed like soldiers, mechanics, fathers, or old men who had lived long, ordinary lives. Yet every face was mine. Every pair of eyes carried the same exhaustion. One by one, they stepped forward. The oldest spoke first. "We all tried to escape." Another continued. "We all believed we were different." A younger version, barely 20 years old, shook his head. "We all failed." Their voices blended until it sounded as though I was listening to my own thoughts. Then the woman in the red dress smiled. "There is only one door." She extended a pale hand toward the endless corridor. At the very end, where darkness swallowed everything else, a single wooden door stood beneath a flickering light. Unlike every other room, it had no number, only a brass plaque that read, "Check out!" Daniel grabbed my arm. "Don't trust her." Before I could answer, the oldest version of me looked directly into my eyes. For once. "Listen." He walked toward the woman. She watched him without moving. He stopped only inches away. "I've done this before," she nodded, 7 times. "And every time, you choose fear." The old man smiled sadly. "This time, I choose to end it." Before anyone understood what he meant, he lunged. Not at me, at her. The hallway exploded into chaos. Every version of me rushed forward at once. Thousands of footsteps thundered across the carpet. The woman didn't scream. She simply looked, surprised. The older Ethan wrapped both arms around her. For the first time, her smile disappeared. "No." Her voice cracked. "You remember." "I remember everything." The old man looked back at me one last time. "You were never supposed to fight her. You were supposed to forgive yourself." Then he laughed, a genuine laugh, the laugh of someone finally setting down a burden he'd carried for lifetimes. Together, he and the woman fell backward into the darkness beyond the corridor. Their silhouettes vanished. Then, silence. The hotel began to collapse. Doors splintered, walls cracked. The carpet rolled like ocean waves beneath our feet. Every other version of me faded into drifting ash. Some smiled, some saluted, some simply closed their eyes. One by one, they disappeared. Daniel pulled me toward the door marked checkout. "This is our chance," we ran. Behind us, the endless hallway folded in on itself. Room 214's vanished by the thousands. The whispers became distant. The perfume disappeared. For the first time since entering the hotel, the air felt warm, real. Daniel reached the door first. He grabbed the handle. It wouldn't move. "What?" I tried. Nothing. Then words slowly appeared across the wood as though written by an invisible finger. "One may leave." Daniel looked at me. No, I already understood. He did too. The hotel wasn't asking us to choose. It already had. Daniel stepped back. A faint smile crossed his face. "My mother." I stared at him. "I think she's finally free." He placed the old guest ledger into my hands. "If you get out, burn the hotel. I'll come back with you." He shook his head. "You can't." Behind him, shapes began emerging from the darkness, not threatening, waiting. Among them stood a woman in a faded maid's uniform. She smiled gently at Daniel. No twisted grin, just peace. His eyes filled with tears. "Mom?" She reached out her hand. Daniel looked back at me one last time. "You've already been given a second chance once. Don't waste another." Before I could stop him, he stepped away from the door. The darkness embraced him. He never screamed. He simply vanished beside his mother. The corridor became still. The words on the door faded. The handle unlocked. I opened it. Sunlight flooded my eyes. When I woke up, I was lying beside Highway 61. Police officers surrounded me. An ambulance sat nearby. One officer asked my name. Ethan Walker. He nodded with visible relief. You've been missing for 3 days. 3 days. I turned toward the road. The Blackwood Inn was gone. In its place stood an empty field overgrown with weeds, as though no building had existed there for decades. Months passed. Life slowly returned to normal, or at least, I pretended it did. Some nights I woke to the faint scent of roses. Sometimes I'd catch my reflection smiling a little too long before I realized I wasn't smiling at all. I never found Daniel. Police searched. Nothing. No record of a man named Daniel Brooks had ever worked at the Blackwood Inn. No employment files. No payroll. No photographs. It was as though he'd never existed. Except, I still had the guest ledger. I kept it locked inside a fireproof safe. I never opened it again, until one rainy evening. Curiosity finally won. I turned to the very last page. There was only one fresh line, written in ink that hadn't been there before. Guest name Ethan Walker. Check-in October 16th, 2025. Below it, a second line slowly appeared while I watched. The handwriting formed by itself. Letter after letter. Check out pending. I slammed the book shut. It didn't matter, because I already knew. Some places don't haunt you because you visited them. They haunt you because a part of you never left.
If you enjoyed this story and found it interesting, please don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more spine-chilling tales. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye, and see you in the next story.